alcohol.
Well, there you are, everybody. We are live as Larry explains that he limited his alcohol intake on a recent trip to New York. But Larry, it's nice to see you. Good to have these regular Sunday fixtures, I think. Sorry for the late start, everyone. I've got a new laptop and I actually just came off the news, which is also why I'm dressed slightly more formally. But Larry, lots to talk about in the case of Iran, Israel, and the United States. Israel, the government seemingly hell-bent on sabotaging and derailing what looks like is going to be a peace deal, or at least an MOU. I mean, right. I know you said off camera, like, why am I surprised? Like, I'm sort of state the bleeding obvious, but yeah, it took me through your perspective.
Well, no, it's all right. It's good to be hopeful, but there's just the stated grounds of Iran are diametrically opposed to the stated positions of the United States. So, 2 plus 3 equals fish. It just doesn't add up. The Iranian demands, I think, have been pretty firm. If they've stuck to them, I think they have. But there are 5 key demands on that front. Unfreeze the assets, lift the sanctions, unblock the ports, lift the blockade, accept their ownership, their control over the Strait of Hormuz, and end the war in Lebanon and Gaza. Those are sort of their essentials. I don't see them backing off of those, because if they back off of those, it could very well mean the end of the government of Pezeshkian and probably the takeover of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And just say, stupid civilians, you're not doing what you promised to do.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm seeing just now the Wall Street Journal has said that Trump is imminently about to announce the US has agreed to a deal with Iran. Unsurprisingly, the Iranians have yet to confirm that. But of course, with all of this happening, the other question is, are we going to see Iran strike back to Israel? Are they going to retaliate? You think they will?
Yeah. They're clearing their airspace right now. They made it clear. They told Israel, if you hit Dahia, if you hit Beirut, the southern suburb, we're going to hit you. That's simple. So I don't think they're kidding around. And Trump is doing desperate things to try to. He recognizes this will probably undo any prospect of a deal. He said, tell you what, I'll go ahead and lift all sanctions now if you don't strike. Oh, we'll go ahead and unfreeze the assets if you don't strike. Well, the funny thing about Iran is Iran doesn't appear to be a kind of country that can be bought. And so they've resisted submitting to those or taking those offers up as serious.
Yeah, Trump's just put out now. Let me get your reaction to this, Larry. So, good time to be streaming with you for the next while, actually. It seems like we're going to cover it live. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and the Strait of Hormuz will be open up for business very shortly. He's just put that on his Truth Social. So, do you actually think the Iranians have agreed to this? And if so, do you think that they've given some concessions in your eyes, or is it's very beneficial for Iran and pretty terrible for America?
Well, it depends on have they been given the same documents? In other words, there's some suspicion that the United States is working from one document and Iran's working from a completely separate document, and they don't necessarily reconcile. What that does is that tells you is there's some games being played. I don't see Iran making the concessions that the United States is likely to insist on.
Yeah, so he called earlier. Yeah. No, sorry. I thought you were done, but you were just pausing.
Yeah, no. I was just saying, I've seen no evidence that the situation's changed.
So Trump had said earlier that it calls on all sides to stand down in Lebanon as Iran deal's so close. What I love about this, Larry, is the to quote the news, the way that the BBC obviously always politely puts it, but expletive-ridden phone call he had with Netanyahu. I would have loved to have been on that call. He must have gone absolutely nuts with him.
Yeah, I love the different British pronunciation. You know, we call them expletives here, expletives there, right?
Well, I mean, we had expletives. My favorite joke always was
it is the King's English, and I grant you were doing it before we were doing it, so I would defer to the.
I appreciate that acknowledgement, but like my favorite joke is sort of when Trump tried to impose a bunch of sanctions or tariffs the first time round in 2017. He put a lot of sanctions on aluminum. And so the British were like, well, it doesn't matter to us because it's aluminium, so we don't sell you aluminum. But anyway,
well, George Bernard Shaw was the one who said the United States and England are two countries separated by a common language.
But like, does this demonstrate now finally that Trump has ridden himself of Netanyahu's control? To you,
no.
The thing.
You know, he keeps saying he wants him to get back in the corner. He can be much firmer. He can say, "Hey, we're cutting you off effectively now until we see your troops back in Israel." Now, there are some posts on social media claiming that some of the major neocons are going nuts. Mark Levin is saying, "What is happening to Trump? Why is he betraying us?" So, and there will be others who will say it's about time. Thank God Trump finally is pulling the trigger on those guys.
It's a weird mixture, isn't it, really? Because on the one hand, you've got like some MAGAs who support Trump no matter what, who are increasingly, maybe not anti-Israel, but like Israeli critical. But then on the far left and the Democrats, right, you've got that growing anti-Israeli movement, people not wanting a PAC to be funding so many Congress people, right?
Right.
I don't know. Where does this leave the US-Israeli relationship in your mind?
Oh, it's a codependency. This is really like one of those dysfunctional families. I've had one within my own family circle, one of my siblings, where the husband's an alcoholic, the wife beater, and the wife is a codependent, can't live without the bad boy person. So they're both miserable. And that's sort of, I think, the state of U.S.-Israeli relations. But in this case, Israel's the abusive spouse, but the United States is the one that can literally cut them off, where they don't have any other option. And they won't because of the strength of the Zionist lobby.
But this is critical, I think, because the overreach that the Israelis are doing right now is massive. They are. I don't understand. Yeah. Well, I guess maybe you would argue that I'm trying to.
Oh no! I'm not. I'm laughing. It's the virtue of. I've been watching this go on for almost 51 years. With the Israelis doing, extreme stuff and killing and murdering and causing mayhem, and the United States trying to rein them in and reins them in temporarily, but then they keep coming back. They get worse with each passing year. And I'm just saying, you're young enough. You don't have that historical memory. It's like when I was growing up, World War II, World War I seemed like distant things. And when I think back, just 40 years from the end of World War I till, I was 3 years old at the time. That's not that long a period.
No, I mean, to me, look, my position has always changed. And I think anyone of a healthy mindset and just life should be willing to admit that their position has changed, that they were wrong in the previous years or whatever. It's like people criticize certain people when they're like, well, you voted for that 20 years ago. Now you've changed positions. Well, yeah, when new information comes to light, events around the world change. Why would you still be so set in your ways? And over Israel, for example. Like, to me, and I want to hear your experience from this, Larry, as someone who's worked in these kinds of fields. I've always been more impressionable, perhaps, given my younger years, and not wanting to think that Israel was the problem. But they are single-handedly trying to derail something that is going to bring peace. Like, they keep hitting Lebanon, a country that's already a failed state, a failing state, and they're doing everything they can, the ultra-nationalist government, to sabotage this, and for some reason want to keep the US and the more broadly Middle East in a perpetual state of war.
Yeah, no, listen. Israel, in some ways, used to be I call them a somewhat sympathetic country when they were led by Golda Meir. So, she came across more like your grandmother. But Netanyahu of late, and these characters, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, good Lord, they're like something out of Hollywood casting for a movie about Dr. Evil. So it is. It's easy to dislike them because not just what they say, but what they do. So it's just,
Harry, we've got it.
Yeah.
We've got the announcement. Sorry, I'm just going to read out breaking news, everybody. We have live with Larry Johnson, ex-CIA analyst. Couldn't think of someone who we've been talking to every week without fail, Larry, since we started doing this in March. And I'm delighted to be saying to everybody, we have an end to the conflict. We don't have a full peace deal, but we have this MOU. So this is coming from Shehbaz Sharif, who is the Prime Minister of Pakistan and who's been obviously one of the key interlocutors. He says, quote, "Following intensive talks, we are pleased to announce that the peace deal between the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran has been reached," in all caps. "Both sides have declared the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon." Well, if the Israelis are going to respect that, that's the critical factor there. He continues, "The official signing ceremony will be in Switzerland on Friday, June 19th. So this coming Friday. We would like to thank the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran for their commitment to finding a diplomatic solution to this conflict. We would also like to extend our sincere appreciation to our diplomatic, to our brothers in this mediation effort, the great leadership of the state of Qatar for their support in reaching their agreement. We'd also especially thank the visionary leadership of the King of Saudi Arabia and Republic of Turkey for the immense contributions in this regard. With the agreement now in place, mediators will facilitate a series of meetings this week. These pre-implementation discussions will lay the foundation for the technical talks and the official signing ceremony. So, reaction, Larry, what do you think?
Let's ask the question again. Who was it that said that? Was that the Iranian? Was that the Iranian prime minister? Was it the Iranian Ayatollah? Was it the Iranian foreign minister? No, it was Pakistani foreign minister. So this is not the first time that Pakistan's made claims that later turned out not to be true. Number one.
Wait, you're saying that he's lying, or that it's
I'm saying that that's what he believes, right, but it's not what Iran has said. So let's wait and see what the Iranians say.
Well,
we have yet to see an actual detailed written memorandum. What did they agree to?
Well, that's what I think we're going to see in terms of the details. I'm just sharing the statement for everyone to see for themselves. So what do you think the Iranians are thinking then? Surely if Pakistan, who has been quite close with the Iranians from my understanding, the Pakistanis were offering to hold their nuclear enriched uranium, the Iranians moved some of their military equipment into Pakistan, if I remember correctly. So what do you think the Iranians will be thinking or saying behind closed doors? Do you think they're going to confirm it?
Well, if it's true, they'll confirm it. If it's not worked out yet, they're not going to confirm it. And there are also reports, and I have no corroboration of this, that the United States said, okay, look, if you don't retaliate against Israel right now for their attack in Beirut, we'll lift all the blockade and we'll we'll lift all the sanctions, and we'll give you back your unfrozen. We'll unfreeze your assets.
Well,
so,
I would.
That we'll see if that if that is the actual deal behind the scenes. I can see Iran going for that right now and giving the U.S. a chance to say, okay, this is the promise you made on Sunday. We're going to supposedly sign this deal next Friday. That's 5 days away. I'm guessing a lot of things could change in 5 days. So we'll see.
So this is what on screen you'll see now, everyone, is the last thing that the foreign minister of Iran said, Aragachi. He said that the MOU has never been closer, and then Trump, I think, retweeted that. Pending its finalization, the media should refrain from entering speculation in line with our responsibility and transparent approach. So if we see him repost that piece from the Prime Minister of Pakistan, if we see him write something else stating about the conditions, then that will be obviously a positive sign. But you remain pretty skeptical right now.
Yes. Yeah. There are, from what we know that's on the table, these are some significant differences that are not easily bridged. So we'll see if they pull it off. I hope they do. I'm not at all wanting to see this continue on with this kind of mayhem. But Iran's got its positions, U.S. has its positions, and I don't see how those are bridged.
Well, what I love, Larry, is that the U.S. President Trump had said that he was going to announce the deal imminently, and then Pakistan's Prime Minister does it instead. Nice little undercut there.
Yeah.
I wonder if Trump's going to bail on the agreement now because he's he didn't get to do the announcement.
No, he's going to be quite happy that they're going to be. He thinks this will give him a shot at the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, it's. But then what does this mean? How do you when you look at Iran right now? Then so they've come out of this obviously much better than the US. They've got a lot of issues. The economy is not good, but how do you feel the Iranian people will be looking at this? And what do you think the conditions of the Iranian relations with other countries? I think I saw a statement from one of the officials earlier saying that they had maintained good relations despite the war with neighbors.
Yeah, well, the relations between the Saudis and Iran have actually been on fairly solid ground for more than 2 years, thanks to reconciliation achieved via the efforts of Russia and China. Mm-hmm. The relations with Qatar have always been, I think, pretty good since 2017, when, if you recall, Qatar was caught, being threatened with sanctions by the Saudis and Emiratis, and it was Iran that came to Qatar's defense and saved it. So they've got good relations there. The one that's been sort of questionable is the Emiratis, and it appears there's been a breakthrough this last week. Whereas the Emiratis previously had been courting, eagerly and desperately courting the Israelis. Now, it looks like that's gone by the wayside.
Yeah, when the Chinese announced that rapprochement between the two, a normalization at least of ties, that was huge. That was about 3 years ago now. Right. And a lot of people, I think, it really demonstrated how much the Americans were, they were really being phased out or being sidelined in favor of China as the primary diplomatic player, so to speak, right?
Right. Well, yeah, I think China's got more investments in among the Gulf Arabs than the United States does.
Well, even more because of the petrodollar and stuff.
Yeah, beyond the petrodollar. I mean, they've got actual projects. Yeah, I was just checking. Yeah, it was March 2023. So we're coming now on it's more than 3 years since China brokered this agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia, restoring the diplomatic relations.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that what's happened. I've done a lot of coverage on China's benefits from this war. We had a really interesting conversation with someone who you probably would disagree with a bit on Saturday, which people can find on the channel if they're interested. But
who was that?
So he's called. Oh God, I can't even remember his name now.
He was an unforgettable personality. What was his name?
Absolutely incredible. He's called Scott Kennedy. He's a senior advisor and trustee chair in Chinese business and economics, a organization you may well know, Larry, called the Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS.
Oh yeah, CSIS. Yeah.
So he's much more of a, shall we say, established.
He's a beltway bandit.
How define that for me further? Your American is not clear to me as a Brit. What that means.
Within the beltway, so these consulting firms that dot around DC, but primarily in Virginia along the Dulles corridor. But this CSIS headquarters is on K Street, which is the K Street. They're about 5 blocks from the White House. So they're what you would consider quintessential Washington establishment, bankrolled by military industrial complex primarily. So they're not. They like to pretend that they're independent outlets, and they are shills for the establishment. Is the nicest way to put it.
Okay, interesting. No, he's he works for an organization which is very much it's a feeder for the US government. To quote one colleague of mine from the days I lived in Washington, it's a bit of a revolving door, right? People come in and out of government, they go back into academia or think tanks.
Part of the deep state infrastructure, Peter.
Yeah, you could phrase it like that, I suppose. But he had some interesting points about China, but more specifically, what I was just trying to get at, so that we can hear your perspective, which is what we're here for, right? Is China has come out of it not just economically okay, it's not ideal, but they have enough reserves that they can deal with the turbulence, right? It's more about the diplomatic capabilities. China's never been properly favored by a lot of countries. I think there's some countries that distrust it. But what's happening here is that China is simply saying, hey, we're not coming to war with you guys. And everyone's like, yeah, that's a fair point. We want nothing to do with the US right now. And China's soft power is really coming to a head. Do you see it like that, or does it go even further to you?
Yeah, I think he's doing some projection. China has now, in my view, displaced the United States as the preeminent global economic power. They've got so many advantages over us, whether it's rare earth minerals, production of electricity, production of electric vehicles, production of technologies that are critical throughout sectors of the economy, leading producer of drugs.
Do you mind if I interject again, Larry? Quickly?
Sure.
Sorry. No, I want you to obviously have time to expand on your thoughts, but we've got Trump's official statement here. So this comes from a news aggregator because Trump doesn't tweet on Twitter as much. But he's put, the deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to all. I hereby fully authorize the toll-free, I love it. I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the US naval blockade. Ships to the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow. Oh my God, it's like literally being on sort of reality TV with this guy. He has to try to frame it in a way that he's the one who's done it. Authorize like ships to start your engine. It's like watching sort of the Derby, right? The Derby, you guys have those sorts of races, right? Where
yeah.
Sort of,
yeah.
Right. Well, what do you make of that then?
We ought to. You ought to tee up. I was looking. Tee up some Carly Simon music. Let the river run. That'll be. Just only change the lyrics. Let the strait run. Well, this is now tracking with those other reports that Trump, in a bid to keep Israel from derailing the talks, offered Iran said you can, if you don't retaliate, if you don't attack Israel, we'll immediately lift the blockade, and we're going to unfree some of the assets. So what the Iranians are saying, if I'm reading correctly, they're saying, hey, we win. We've got to win. Now, it's not officially announced. So again, the only ones saying this so far are Trump and Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan.
Well, I know, but if Trump has said it, why would the Iranians, why would this all happen? Right? It's not like we haven't been here before, Larry. There's been a few times where 39. Trump has said 39 times that a deal was imminent.
This is now 40.
Well, 40 is the new one.
You remember the old saying, third time's the charm? This is for the 40th time, maybe the charm. Who knows? But
I'm just posting on here. I don't know, Larry. It's just absurd to me that we're in this situation at all. What I love about him is congratulations to all. Sort of congratulations to the fact that you started this whole bloody thing. It wouldn't have existed if you hadn't gone to war in the first place, right? I mean, that's way too.
Well, but again, there's some caveats to this now. I'm just seeing another post. So the U.S. Navy is going to lift the blockade, but they're going to continue to inspect Iranian ships to prevent Chinese weapons from reaching them. That's a violation of Iranian sovereignty. And I'm sure the Iranians are going to tell the United States, fuck off. They're not going to submit to that. They're not going to turn into Trump's prison bitch.
Well, okay, let's break this down a little bit then. Let's focus on each angle of this deal. So we've got, let's assume that the Iranians agree with it, right? Just for argument's sake, there. We're going to have these preliminary meetings in the run up to the signing on Friday. Now, Trump doesn't seem that bothered by this because he said he's going to do it virtually, or maybe even J.D. Vance will do it. So Trump's really, really not interested in this. So much for liberating the Iranian people.
Right.
But what does this look like for Iran from the Strait of Hormuz? Trump claims free opening, which I think is going to absolutely not be the case. I think the Iranians are going to be charging for the strait. It'll be open. People are just going to have to pay to pass through. It's a user's fee. It's like, years ago, 20 years ago, you go to Las Vegas and they give you basically a hotel room cheap, and you get a $5 all you can eat buffet because they wanted to put bodies in the hotel and get butts in the seats at the casinos betting. Now they're on economic hard times. So what are they doing? You pay full price at the hotel. They charge quadruple for the buffet, and then they charge you a resort fee. Iran is now charging a resort fee. So just to collaborate here on what you said, is the Iranian state TV, IRIB, is already stating that the deal between the Iranians and Americans is a victory for Tehran. Just reading here, one TV channel has said US was forced to sign an agreement to end the war with the Islamic Republic of Iran and the resistance front. So the Iranians obviously putting a lot of emphasis on the Lebanese front and Hezbollah remaining operational and functional. Do you still feel skeptical that they have actually agreed to this?
Well, what they've agreed, again, understand, they've agreed to certain things. It's not clear that Trump has agreed to those same things, and we'll find out the next coming days if Trump fulfills the promise. It's just like I pointed out. He says we're lifting the blockade, but we're going to continue to inspect Iranian ships and prevent them from receiving Chinese weapons. That's a blockade, okay? So either you lift the blockade or you don't lift the blockade. It's not like being almost pregnant. You either are or you're not. And so we got, let's see in the next 24 hours. If in the next 24 hours, the United States boards a ship from China headed to Iran on an Iranian vessel, the Iranians will react. And let's say that Israel, despite the pressure, takes another shot into Dahia, the suburb of Beirut. Iran will retaliate. So, yeah.
Just what? As you say this, the Israelis have launched yet another attack in the past,
have they?
In the time that we've been talking, the Israelis have been operating yet more. There's been more strikes, or just Hezbollah's launched a drone, and now the Israelis are responding as well.
Okay. So, are they launching it into Dahia, or are they launching it into southern Lebanon?
It's not clear yet. I'm pretty sure it's southern Lebanon.
So as long as it's not Beirut, then the Iranians might overlook that. If it is Beirut, they won't overlook it.
Well, as I read in the post by Sharif, if you want to believe it or not, he declared that there was also, the deal included the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. So that technically, the whole thing in writing has already been violated by
correct.
Guess who. So I don't think the Iranians are going to respond to that. If you want my personal my quick take on it, I do not think that the Iranians are going to do anything, as long as you say it depends on what they hear. If they're targeting Beirut, then that's a strike too far. But I don't think that they really want to, if this deal is happening, I don't think they want to return to conflict with the US. But
well, again, it depends. What were the promises and assurances that Iran received, not just from the United States, but from Pakistan?
Yeah, so just seeing another media here, we can watch this quickly just to, you can see I'm not as professional as some others because I don't have a team, but I do it all. But I know how to share screens, everybody. There you go. So the announcement made by
شهباز شریف از پایان دائم و فوری جنگ در همه جبهه‌های جنگ آمریکا علیه ایران و متحدانش خبر داد. نخست وزیر
basically framing it as that the US has been forced to sign an agreement to end the war with the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Resistance Front. So it's all about the embarrassment for the US, which I think if you're anyone of a reasonable mind, right, Larry, this is a how bad a strategic setback do you think this is for the Americans? Is it some people say on as Vietnam, Afghanistan, so on?
It's just confirmation of the loss of U.S. status. The United States they're behaving very much like that joke about a wife walks in on her husband, he's in bed with another woman, and he immediately hops out of bed and says, what? No, I'm not doing anything. No, you're not seeing what you're seeing. This is not happening. No, it's just, no, you're wrong. She's trying to make her deny what she's seeing with her own eyes. So the United States is going to keep putting this heavy spin on it. Oh, this is great. We got peace in our time. Israel's going to continue doing what it can do to try to disrupt, destroy, sabotage the talks. Iran's going to exercise some patience, but only up to a point. And again, we don't know what actual agreements. What did the United States promise to do to and for Iran? You need to watch sort of the social media accounts of the Mark Levins and others to see watch their heads explode. Because I imagine that's, they're having a pretty significant reaction right now.
Yeah, I wanted to get through some of the different factors, the key points of the deal, right? Potential deal, Larry, but then I got distracted by the announcement from Trump. But simply, let's go through them one by one. So firstly, the Hormuz Strait. So this is, I think, Iran's biggest advantage now, their biggest leverage point. It's not so much just the nuclear warhead, if and when they have that, or as we had our little debate a couple of weeks back about testing it. or versus using it. And I think that they really have come to recognize how much of a disproportionate damage they can do to the United States through the Strait of Hormuz, right? So what would be the ultimate, what would be the best scenario for the Iranians? Complete control of the Strait, co-sharing it with the Omanians? It doesn't really matter in your case.
Yeah, well, complete control of the Strait, or they share it with Oman. The fees are collected in Chinese yuan, not dollars. So they'll start collecting money and putting it out of the reach of U.S. sanctions. And, right now, candidly, I think they're in a much, much better economic position than they were, say, last June, or even as recently as last January, January 2026.
Well, that's the thing. I remember there was a lot of discussion earlier on in May, I think it was. The Iranians were doing a lot of backdoor diplomacy, right? Subtle work behind the scenes, improve relations with the Omanis. And as you said from the outset, right, about Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states don't really, I don't know. What do you think the Gulf states' view of this is? They don't care if Iran monetizes the Strait as long as they can get their oil and gas and so on out? Or you think they will have a bit
Well, they're not. Number one, they're not a united entity. I described them. The Gulf Arabs. They're the mean girls of the Middle East. So like that popular teen movie. These girls are constantly just being total bitches to one another, and that sort of describes how the Gulf Arabs get along. I mean, 7 years ago, the Saudis and the Emiratis were piling on Qatar. And then here of late, Saudi Arabia is wanting to go to war with the Emirates, and Qatar's trying to play a moderating influence. Oman is trying to mind its own business and stay out of the way of all these clowns, because at least they have access to the Arabian Sea. It's like like I said, a movie about mean, nasty teenage girls. Only in this case, they're Gulf Arabs wearing these petite little white sandals decked with gold. It's really very sort of, and not what you call a manly look.
That's one way to put it, Larry. Manly look. No, to my mind, it's fascinating to see the divergence of opinions between some of the Gulf states, like the Emiratis and Saudis, are really bad now. The Qataris have always had this unique role, trying to be sort of the Switzerland of the Middle East, trying to sort of, and the irony actually on mentioning Switzerland, I'm not sure doing the signing in Switzerland is the wisest idea for luck. It was in Switzerland where they were doing the peace talks or efforts to reach some kind of agreement, which kicked off this whole war in the first place. So I don't know. Oh, well, also, in the comments, your joke.
Go ahead.
So I'm sorry to say, but they didn't like your little joke earlier. So do you have a better one?
No, hey, comedians fail. You don't like the joke? Okay, it's a free country. I don't come on here and say you must like my jokes, appropriate or inappropriate. I say what I think. I say what I feel, and I'm not saying it to win accolades from other people and say, "Oh, Larry, he's so wise." At my age, I give you my opinion. You may like it, you may dislike it, but you know what? I'll have the conversation with you. Or I can start off, Peter, you're not being intellectually honest.
No, it's intellectually dishonest.
Sorry to go back to that meme, but that was sort of, I actually thought you maintained your composure pretty well in the face of some very insulting.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I watched it.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, look, a lot of people think that sort of there are a lot of echo chambers, but I genuinely try to interview everyone to an extent, right? And what I learned about that, and I think I've said this to you before, but when trying to cover the Israeli angle, I find it surprisingly difficult to find people who are willing to engage you unless you're 100% or largely universally on that on side.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So they like their little bubbles, which is problematic if you want to have a genuinely intellectually honest conversation, which Matt Tardio didn't want to, and I do find his surname being Tardio and retard being quite, well, it's just quite convenient, I think.
I think of it more in the English version, tardy, late.
Oh, and tardy. Well, that just means he's late. I mean,
which he is. He's late. He's late to catching up to the truth. He's late to the party.
He's the other word I would just consider using is just twat, or or wanker. But anyway, excuse me, everybody, if you're sensitive to bad words, but I'm English, so I swear a lot. Anyway, Larry, okay, so we've talked about a little bit about the Hormuz. So what about, therefore, the uranium and nuclear-enriched element? What is the reality there? The media are going to say one thing, but what do you think the reality is going to be?
Oh, they're miles away from an agreement. They're not even close. They're not even in the ballpark yet. So you have all these, 5 red lines that Iran's talked about. Lift sanctions, return the frozen assets, lift the blockade, recognize their control of the Strait of Hormuz, and stop the war in Lebanon and Israel and Gaza. So we'll see. By the way, I gotta bail at about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know you always have another engagement at the top of the hour. So yeah, I had us down for 6-7 minutes. But all right, so. But then where does this leave Iran in terms of its power projection, right? The country was always seen as incredibly powerful because of its ability to pull on its network of proxies and this whole, I don't know if you will agree with this term, but plausible deniability, that they can, some people will say that it wasn't actually, it was Iran that did it, and Iran will be like, no, it wasn't. It was one of our proxies, or we have nothing to do with that. But ever since this war, and last year the 12-day war and the US attacks and Israel's constant efforts to destabilize the Middle East, Iran's had to change its posture, right? Its policy. So what do you think that this does to Iran's regional standing?
No, I think it boosts it. They've stood up to the United States and Israel and beat them. Pure and simple. Not a single objective the United States and Israel laid out, but principally the regime change has come to pass. So that's all been a big failure. Like I said, we're here on Sunday. It's now 2:30 a.m. In the 2:40, almost 2:30 in Iran. So very early morning. We'll see. What statements they come out with. Do they corroborate Trump's statements or not? It did look earlier they were gearing up for a big strike on Israel in retaliation to the strikes in Dahia. But, it looks like, again, Trump's sending mixed messages because on the one hand, he said lifting the blockade, but then in the same breath, if we catch any Chinese weapons on Iranian ships, we're going to take them. Well, that's not lifting the blockade. That's a de facto blockade. So we'll see. And, Ron's expecting, they said they'd lift the blockade. Okay, let's see if that happens. And if it doesn't happen, Arachi and those who press for this deal, they're going to have a lot of egg on their face, and they're going to be eating some healthy portions of crow.
But that's the thing, Larry, that confuses me, right? As someone who's worked in the CIA and State Department and generally had a significant amount of experience in foreign policy for the US, where does this leave the state of that? If the US has stated that they would achieve these 4 objectives and they haven't come anywhere near any of them, what does that tell us about the state of American foreign policy or intelligence more broadly?
Can you cite me the last instance of what you consider an American success on the foreign policy front? How about the imposition of tariffs? How did that work out? Huh?
Well, the JCPOA before Trump sabotaged
it up. Yeah. That's about it. That's about it. It's been one sort of string of setbacks, and we so-called got rid of Bashar al-Assad, who, whatever his faults as a leader, He was not a head chopper, and he was not one that was encouraging terrorist attacks against Americans, whereas Americans had been promoting terrorist attacks against his regime now for 14 years.
I think it's an incredible demonstration of Iran's resilience and their resistance to. They didn't want to become another Syria, put it that way. They didn't want to become another Iraq. This deterioration, and all I think it demonstrates is, okay, we've got another bit of news here, and I know you will be going in just a couple minutes, Larry. But so Iran State TV has said that Iran and Oman will regulate traffic in the Strait of Hormuz under the peace agreement. I think that makes the most logical sense to me. What about you?
Yeah. That was their demand. So Iran has met their demand has been met. Will it be complied with by the United States? You watch. I think you're going to see Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury, come out within the next 24 hours saying, "Well, if anybody that pays money to Iran, they're going to either be sanctioned by us or we're going to take the money out of their, they're going to find a way to try to punish Iran still." There is no political consensus yet in the United States about a rapprochement with Iran. This is the first pass. We got 5 days to see if things can get blown up. Don't hold your breath. I think, as you noted, Israel will be doing its best to try to sabotage this. And Trump is going to face enormous pressure, both from Republicans that are on the payroll of the Zionists as well as Democrats.
Yeah, but can Trump save his ass? Even
I don't know. No, I don't think so. But I think he's gone too far. And the reality here is, if he sticks to this agreement, he will be burning serious bridges with the Zionist regime that sort of undergirds power in Washington. It's very powerful. But it could win him some support that has previously vanished. I don't know if there's enough goodwill left in people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Dave Smith, Joe Rogan, run down the list to see if they're willing to come back and say, "Hey, Trump finally got it right."
Yeah, so I'm just reading this here, Larry. So Iran has decided not to attack Israel after Trump offered an Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon and the immediate lifting of the naval blockade. But I think it goes further than that. I think there's going to be a hell of a load of sanctions relief and financial. What was that? I think the Emiratis are releasing a huge amount of money towards the Iranians as well, which is quite a big move for them, considering that Iran's been hitting them hard and the most frequently, right?
Yeah, and what does that tell you? Who's at the power? Who's his favor? Favors Iran, not the United States, and certainly not Israel. But it remains to be seen if Trump can follow through on his threats to Israel. So,
all right. Well, Larry, it's been an absolute pleasure. Maybe we can see you again tomorrow or in the next few days. Sunday night.
Usually I'll try to help out as I can.
Well, you do a good job, and as this gentleman has put, very good podcast. So keep growing. And well, Larry, we owe that to you to come back and help us. So
I appreciate speaking to your audience, even those who disagree with me. We at least ought to hear one another out.
No, absolutely. But everyone, thanks for watching. I'm going to stay on, Larry. I'm sure.
All right, my friend.
But speak soon, mate. And have a good rest of your afternoon. All right.
Just like your father or your grandfather, I'm going to tell you, don't stay up too late.
Well, spasibo большое.
Okay.
My father would say.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Ciao.